Okay, let's look
Uh,
at our next set of questions. We only have 3 more. I have no
okay.
idea. Are we like on our 6th hour yet on this?
No, not quite. Maybe fifth.
Only the 5th hour. Good. All right.
We'll timestamp it. We'll chunk it out. They can come back and watch things later. Yeah. Oh, these are big.
Worried about emotional wellness. How do I offer relevant content that really also demonstrates the importance on learning while still balancing their wellness? How do we
Mm.
build teacher resiliency in to model? That's such a great question. Whoever wrote that in gets an A in my book today. Ways can we add fun? Oh, these are good.
Yeah.
These are
Well,
good.
and I think what I think is interesting about these is that if I can just leave them up for just a second here, is that they all have the answer within them in a way. So I'm not concerned about my students academically. I'm worried about their emotional wellness. How do I offer relevant content? Okay, maybe we don't. Right. So, and then how do we build teacher resiliency in or to model student resiliency? Okay, so we do that by doing number one, by worrying more about their emotional wellness than their academic wellness right now. We're going to model that resiliency for them. We're going to say to them, this is hard and this is strange, and right now we're going to pick up, we have these 2 things we do at school a lot. At school we do a lot of academic, but we do a lot of wellness as well, and right now for this time, this one's going to go to the side because this is what we need right now. Just like there are times where this one goes to the side because our kids are doing well and we push more academics. And so that's right there is the answer to that, is your teacher gut in this time is going to be right.
I
If
think
you think right now we need to focus on a wellness, let's do that. So how? Let's kind of dig into that, Ginger.
I think your answer right there is beautiful, and I would apply that to the last question as well,
Mm-hmm.
because social emotional curriculum may not, the stuff that we get sent to us and that we push out to kids in 20-minute, 10-minute chunks, right? That fits into their day at school may not be appropriate here.
Yeah,
It may be way off base.
right.
So if
I
we
do.
if we
Go
continue
ahead.
to use that, are we using it with fidelity for their program, or are we using it for what our kids need?
Exactly. I this morning, our my daughter's principal Paul is still doing he is still doing morning announcements every day for the kiddos, and so they're on Facebook, and he goes in, he runs them just like he would if there were 500 kids sitting in front of him. And today they did every day they do kind of a little lesson, right? And it's a social emotional lesson of some point, and now he's asking the kids, how are you going to use this at home and help your parents understand what it is? So today was active listening. And so he reminded kids of their skill of active listening and then encouraged them to say, okay, teach this to your parents, and parents reinforce this with your kids. So you can still use those pieces because they likely have great common language. It's not teaching new and going through the curriculum anymore. It's about actually taking out what we were supposed to have learned from the curriculum and have our kids apply it in a new setting where they're actually going to need those skills.
Sounds like PBL to me.
Oh, it kind of does. This whole thing sounds like PBL to me.
Kind of sounds like integrated learning. Kind of sounds
Mm-hmm.
like real world application.
Yeah,
Kind of
that whole transfer of learning cycle, right?
kind of sounds like something that's really important. And I
Yeah.
love that we're getting to practice it right now. And we'll be practicing
Mm-hmm.
it for a while. And I can't wait, looking forward with my crystal ball, how we might take the lessons that we will be learning. We don't have it now. I would never expect any teacher in my school to have this stuff right now. Well, okay, wait a minute. Maybe the teachers in my school had better have it already. But that's because they were practicing it for
We were
years.
doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when they came in, I had a lot of grace for them their first year. What is it?
Yeah.
I say this a lot. if you plant perennials, the flowers that come back year after year, you already know this. But when you plant perennials, the first year they sleep. They're just there. They just kind of come up and go away. And the second year they creep. So they grow and spread a little bit. And on the third year, you've got those perennials planted, boom, they leap, right? And I've been using that little saying there, that truism, as an analogy for anything we try that's different in the world. The first year you sleep, second year you creep, third year you leap. And it doesn't have to be a year. It could be a season or a week or the first time or the second time. And I think that we're going to really be able to leap or maybe a creep as the school year starts next year. Can't wait to see the lessons we learn here in a sleeping moment.
I love that. I love that analogy, and I do like that it doesn't have to be a year, right? So, I mean, that can be an individual time frame. So, as a teacher listening to this, don't think that we're not in this for 3 years. Let's hope not. But it might not also be a week for you. It might be for the teacher down the imaginary hallway at this point. It might be a week for that teacher who is kind of our, you refer to them as dock jumper sometimes, that person who's just going to go after and get it. It might take you a little while, and that's okay. That's okay. If you are focusing on loving your kids right now, they're going to get what they need during this time. Our learning brain is likely turned off right now anyway for a lot of our kiddos. And so if we think about that, if we're going to try to drill and kill some content with our kids right now, I was thinking my daughter was sent home with a list of trick words. For her, she read those no problem. I said, okay, here's some bookmarks. You already know these words. We're not going to continue to practice them. For other kids, they might not know those words. And for some of them, this top part of their brain is going to be fine. They're going to be in a stable learning environment at home with some stable parents who can help them. And they're going to be able to learn those words, and it's going to be okay. For other kids, they're going to be back here in that survival part of their brain. This part's not turned on. There's no learning process and happening up there at that point. And so that's, if we focus on where our kids are and we set our expectations that they will do the best they can right now, that's all we can expect. So what happens if I'm sending work home and the kids aren't turning it in? Then we get curious about why they're not turning it in. Are you not turning it in because you don't have a schedule? Can I help you set a schedule? Are you not turning it in because you need help? Let's set up some different office hours. Are you not turning it in because you're worried about what you're eating? Let's find you some food. Are you not turning it? Like, if we get curious and we dig into why, we can likely help fix the missing skill or need, the unmet need, so that they can turn it in. And if they still can't turn it in, then we understand that this is a brain issue, not a behavior issue. And then we help fix that with them. We help them work through, not fix it for them. We help them work through that and support them there. It'll be okay.
I would love it if everybody would just rewind that segment that you just heard and listen to it again. Because in the secondary world, we have a tendency to say, well, that kid wasn't doing jack for me before, and now they're still not going to. And how am I supposed to hold them accountable? And if I'm not giving them grades, then they're never gonna. And I would say, even before all this happened, if we're relying on grades to motivate kids to do work, we got a problem. You know, I want them to do the work because they want to, because it's important to them. And we don't always look at it through that lens. And this is a good opportunity to look at kids through multiple different lenses. And I know, particularly at the secondary level, we could have 100 or way more than that kids that we're trying to serve. I'm hoping your school is building a homeroom of a handful of kids that you can manage, so that you're not, some kid or parent isn't being asked 8, 9, 10 times a day, how you doing? Your homeroom teacher can deal with that. But I'm going to say this out loud too. If you know a kid in your class who struggles, that you've got a good relationship with, and you know who their homeroom teacher is, and you might guess that they might not have a great relationship there, reach out to them. Gently.
Yeah, that's big.
That's big at the secondary level, because we've got kids who don't connect with all teachers. Yay. Yeah. Recognize that. And if you're a homeroom teacher or an advisory teacher or whatever you call it, and you aren't connecting with that kid, ask for help. It's okay. It's okay to say, I'm not connecting with this kid. I'm sorry, we're both human, right? And if you're not connecting with several of your kids, reach out for help. Doesn't mean you're a terrible person. And maybe it does. Maybe you are a terrible person. Maybe. The point is,
So be a good person and ask for help.
the kid still needs help, right? So what are you going to do? You're going to ignore it? How do we take this opportunity to look at things differently? And
So we do have kids, so we talked about them earlier, and the kids who maybe they do need more. So we have these time frames, this time frame that we've been given from, in Kansas anyway, we have a time frame we've been given from the state. I've learned from friends who teach and work and have children out of state that not everybody's been given time frames like this. But here in Kansas, it's pre-K is 30 minutes, K1 is 45 minutes, 2-3 is 60 minutes, 4-5 is 90 minutes, and then our secondary friends, 6th and above, it's 30 minutes per class session, up to 3 hours a day. Okay, so that's great. My kid yesterday did the assignments that she was given by her teacher in about 22 minutes, and then is looking at me going, now what? Because I'm used to having a schedule. So what do I do now? And so how do we, for those kiddos, find that balance for them? The pop just ran through. And so find that passion project for them. So for those kiddos that as their teacher, they're going to want and need more to stay okay during this time, help them set up. Let's go back to PBL. You don't have to be a master of PBL right now. Help them find something they're passionate about. And then say, okay, you've got resources. Let's research that. What are you going to do? So yesterday, Sadie's going to start a YouTube channel. So she has kind of been thinking about, she has a Google Doc going where she's researching different videos that on YouTube, she's going to how-to videos, how to set up a podcast, how to do these things. And we're talking about it. It takes a few minutes of my time. I don't have to know anything about setting up a podcast to do this. Now she has her little paper here with who her first interview is going to be and what questions she's going to ask them. This is a passion project. It's going to take her a ton of time. And guess what? She's going to work on it because she wants to. I'm going to have to pry this thing away from her because she wants to do it. So that's how we add fun into a remote learning situation, is that we put forward the little academic pieces we need to keep their minds working. And then we encourage them to find something to do that they're passionate about. Kindergartners have passion. Maybe it's building Legos. So today, spend 45 minutes building the most awesome Lego thing you can. Take a picture of it and send it to me. Maybe it's playing outside. Go outside and invent a new game. Tell me about it tomorrow on Seesaw. Those are the ways that we help them do new things. We teach our kids to be learners rather than students. I can't even imagine, like, as somebody who taught in a PBL classroom, like, I can't imagine right now the types of learners that I might be able to get in my classroom next August. If we all just focus on letting our kids learn something, one new thing that they're passionate about right now. What kind of kids will we get when they come back to normal school?
But Katie, they're only interested in video games.
Cool. There's so many awesome things you can do with video games. Number one, are they live video games? Do they got a headset and they're talking to their friends? Amen. Totally okay with that. I wish my daughter played video games so she could talk to her friends more, right? Okay, so can they be thinking about creating their own video game? Can they be writing tutorials like that? I suck at video games. And so anytime I've played one, I'm always looking for cheats. Can they write the cheats for those video games so they can figure out how okay, video games, awesome. There's a million things. I'm not a gamer. But those who are can think of 100 things to do during this time.
Well, and there are some really great video games that really bring in some amazing learning. And so here's the thing, is we're going to dive into these sorts of things if you ask for it. If you're like, it's not video games, it's my kid's just a football player in any football season. And okay, so first of all, reach out to your colleagues for thoughts and ideas and brainstorm when you have some team time, if you can. If they're not good at this, or if you're the crazy unicorn of your school and everybody else is just like, I'm just giving them curriculum and moving on, and you're the only one who's really looking at kids as full human beings, and this is the case in some schools. Some schools are really just trying to survive until the end of May, but some are really taking that opportunity. If you want to brainstorm with people, reach out to Katie and me, man. We got, well, I like to say we have a lot of time. Didn't we just talk about disconnecting some? But this is something in fact, I don't know if you just heard a couple of dinks, right? I'm consistently being asked individual questions by individual teachers about what about this and what about that. And this is something I, like I said, live for. I'm willing to share everything I know, which isn't a ton, but I have connected to a lot of people who know a lot of things. And if you're in Kansas and you're not in that Facebook group, Kansas Educators Facebook group, reach out here and well, actually I'll probably link to it in the description here, so make sure you get in there, because there's a ton of over 15,000 educators from Kansas in there now.
So I just had an idea for sports, and this may be a really stupid idea, I don't know, but there are no sports being played right now, right? Like all of our major league sports have been shut down. So what is ESPN and all of those channels playing right now? I know, because my husband's all about the sports. They're playing all of the old championship games, right? So all the old football games, all the NBA games, all the college championships. So if your kiddo really is like that basketball guy and they want to learn more, what if they treated that 1988 Final Four championship game as game reel, and they're watching and they're analyzing the plays that are happening, they're figuring it out, and then they're doing whatever basketball guys do in practice after they've analyzed film. How can you go out and practice that? So we have resources, right? Only the best of the best games are being played. Could your sports guy do that? Right? So just kind of think there are a lot of creative ways. Like those are the video game suggestion, and the sports suggestion I just gave came from somebody who knows nothing about sports and video games. So if I can come up with 2 ideas that might be a baseline, where can somebody who actually knows about those things go from there?
And if we start looking at practice standards, all those things that were touched in, all of that, right?
Right.
But again, let's not push the cart right up the horse's rear end, trying to get it down the road. I'm not putting the cart before the horse, but I'm not also trying to push the horse out of the way with the cart. So let's take care of ourselves emotionally and Maslow's hierarchy before we start saying, now are the standards in on this? Hold up, let's get them at least interested. Once their baseline wellness and emotional taken care of, now let's just talk about doing some fun learning, and then let's get into starting to think, now how do I get Trojan horse, sticking with the horse theme, how do I get my standards into this fun learning? This is such a good opportunity to start to play with this stuff.
Yeah. It's also a great time to learn. I'm just thinking about another thing that I think I talked about it yesterday a little bit, but the minute relief sale here in town was canceled, and that's a big tradition for our family. And so, we're not going to get our Zwieback and our New Year's cookies. Like, what are we going to do? Oh, well, wait a second. My family is Mennonite. I can call grandma, talk to her a little bit about the history of that recipe, see the 2 or 3 different recipes she has. She has the the version from Grandma Phrase, and she has the version from Aunt Sarah. So can I take those 2? And then can I text my colleague Glenn Wiebe, who is also a Mennonite, and say, hey, what's your family's recipe from here? And now I'm kind of doing a little family history study while comparing to other people who come from a similar background, and we're talking about it. And let's make these 3 different versions of these rolls, and which ones do we like the best? Turns out we like grandma's. We like grandma's the best. But, there's a great opportunity here for those things too. Now, these are for your families who are right now in a resilience building mode, that are emotionally stable right now. They're food security, they have job security, they have all of those things, and a community, and we're trying to help make this time more normal. Those people exist too. We're not all insecure right now. So it's knowing which one it is, and then inviting them to do different things than they've normally had time for in the past.
You mean I can't expect all my kids to do all the exact same thing at the exact same time right now?
Right.
Maybe we shouldn't have been all along. That was maybe more for us than about the kids. Just dropping that out there.
That's a big little truth bomb. Let's move on.